I think political parties have the right to have a position. We spoke to your leader and their positions that are uniquely yours. Yes. But in the face of what we're seeing in Israel, and I think that he got a lot of heat for that, and maybe something to reflect on, because the world seems to be changing its mind on what exactly is going on there. Your party seems to be steadfast. You know, you take a particular party line, and he didn't seem to want to move away from that line. Do you think it's something you're reflecting on now?
Well, I think that there's nothing that we are not reflecting on. But one of the things you can count on with the ACDP, that when it comes to our particular value system, we are not going to compromise on our value system. And the ACDP holds to a biblical worldview, and that biblical worldview is what guides us. So despite what the world may be saying on a particular view, we are going to hold fast to that. We're going to hold fast to our view on marriage. The world may take a different view, and just because the world is saying something counter to what the ACDP is saying, it doesn't mean that we're going to change our view. But maybe perhaps in terms of how we communicate is something that we need to do some introspection on. And I think that perhaps in communicating our message and communicating our position is where we actually need to look at some improvements.
You obviously, as you're saying, you're a Christian-based political party. But even as a Christian political party, are you not too narrow? Have you been inclusive enough, even within the Christian community, including the traditional parties, I beg your pardon, the traditional churches. And so on? Is there room for them to be part of ACDP?
Well, absolutely. But it's a good question. It's a question of have we been inclusive enough? It's the first time that it's been phrased that way. Very often, the interviewers that would ask would actually say the ACDP, and they would themselves come to the position that the ACDP is an exclusive political party. And we would counter that by saying that we are not exclusive. That we have people from different religious views who actually support the ACDP. We've got people from the Hindu group, the Muslim group, the Jewish group, and even from the traditional churches who have said, we support the ACDP because of your conservative values, your family-based values, and so on. So when we look back and do that introspection, we kind of see ourselves as a political party that is inclusive.
Yes.
But whether we are inclusive enough, I think is certainly needs interrogation. And that's something that we obviously would need to sit down and look deeper into.
And I must say, I think actually many South Africans concede that the values that the ACDP present are values that many people actually subscribe to. They don't have a problem with that. Yeah. But when people want to be active political participants, sometimes they want to go into a political movement where there is growth, where they can be something bigger than just be a volunteer. Do you have that space for people who are coming into the ACDP, who are not necessarily fundamentalist Christian? Can they rise to senior leadership positions?
There's no exclusion.
Yes.
Within the ACDP for membership.
And I understand that, yes. But for leadership positions. Anyone.
And then also you have a position, we have a position in terms of our policy of freedom of religion. So the ACDP believes in the principle of freedom of religion. We do not believe that people can be forced into a particular religious system. We have been kind of very concerned, I think, with regards to infiltration in religion, infiltration within our leadership sector, and so we've been a little bit guarded in terms of who we bring on board to leadership, and however, it's not us. We have what we call a guardian committee and the guardian committee is made up of those who are actually not members of the ACDP. They are supporters, but they are leaders of the community, leaders with its church leaders, business leaders. And so the members of the guardian committee, they are the ones who actually interview for the leadership of the ACDP. So that's the process that we follow. It is our constitutional process, and that's the process. And so whether that needs to be changed, obviously we'd have to have a general conference at our annual general conference and look at a constitutional amendment. And if there is broad agreement, then that's something that obviously the ACDP would need to look into.
You speak of a concern of infiltration. What's the concern? What's the threat?
Well, I think that the ACDP over the last 30 years has been steadfast in terms of its value system. We have seen also over the years how some political parties morph and change. The ACDP doesn't see itself as a political schizophrenic party that becomes like a chameleon and changes with the times. We believe, in terms of our biblical worldview, that there are some concepts, particularly from the Bible, which we hold dear to, that are eternal and should not be changed. So the concern is where certain leaders who may be influential themselves would want to move away from that kind of core value system that has been dear to the ACDP.
So obviously, from here, we look forward to 2026.
Yes. Yes. Well, already there are some of our members who have said, while we were busy campaigning, who said, listen, this can't stop. The excitement was there. The hype was there. The sense that the ACDP is able to contest at a national level and is indeed a player at a national level, as we've proved over the last 30 years. And so there are those of our candidates, particularly some of our councillors, who are now saying that we have 2 days break.
Yes.
And then we start campaigning for 2026.
What are the takeaways from this election? I know you've raised concerns with what people were experiencing on the ground. By and large, you feel that the IEC has done well, or how concerned are you about some of the things you raised?
Look, I think that it may still be early days for me to pronounce on whether the IEC has done enough and whether they've done well. I've chatted, I don't want to mention the officials that I chatted to, but we kind of go a long way, almost like 25 years. And when I was still at a council level, and this individual is now, one of the senior IEC members, and openly admitted that there are some things that the IEC could do differently. One of the challenges that the IEC has is the losing of institutional knowledge, where they're changing the officials, and so you have, quality IEC officials, and then after this election, they lose 50 to 60% of those quality, and now you got to start training, again. And so that is one of the challenges, and admitted also that where that plays into the long queues, because the senior IEC officials that have been with them for a long time, they were flexible and they were able to adjust quickly and shorten the queues. But the others, were kind of inflexible, which resulted in a lot of dissatisfaction. So I don't want to be, too quick to say yes, we're happy with the IEC. There are still reports coming in from our members on the ground, and I think that towards the end of the election we will make our position.
So voter turnout, how do you feel about the voter turnout? Well,
look, certainly I think not happy. I think at the beginning we were expectant that the dissatisfaction, particularly with the ruling party, would see the masses actually come out and vote, because where you have a voter turnout of some 15 to 17 million, but you have a voter registration of 27 million. That's about 10 million people who have registered but have not exercised their democratic right. Those 10 million people are able to change the course of our history, our political history. And because of their failure to exercise their democratic right, then we remain with the same. And for how long can South Africa continue to remain with the same? However, I do think that we're now moving towards what seems to be coalition politics, and that coalition politics is possibly going to be the new normal based on the figures that we're currently seeing on the leaderboard. And it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to play out, and whether political parties who have indicated that they will not have any coalitions with the ANC will now, because of position and power and glamour and money, will change their value system and form alliances and coalitions with the ANC.
Interesting. We'll obviously wait and see if that actually happens.
Absolutely.
Wayne Maxim Thring, thank you so much for your time.
It's been my pleasure.
As ACDP Deputy President there. Thanks so much.